Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the live stream. This is part 1 of 5. We're going to be streaming. It's Stream Week here on the channel, and we're going to be building a website from start to finish, moving from Figma into Framer. And we could do the fast way. We could use the awesome plugin. We could use AI, but we're not going to do that. We're going to learn the tool. You're going to learn how to become a Framer web developer this week. You're going to learn all the nuances on how you can go from start to finish. I actually my team and I, we finished a Framer website for a client, a single page landing page the other day in a day. So if you want to deliver websites that fast or faster even potentially, then you could definitely use the process that you're going to learn this week. We got people popping in the chat throughout this journey. This is a live interactive build with me type of session. So feel free at any point to click the link down in the description. It's going to lead you to this lemon squeezy page where you can download the actual Framer template. You want to skip the whole thing and you just want the stinking free Framer template to remix? Okay, you could do that. But if you download it as well, you're going to get the Figma file, you're going to get a bunch of assets, and it's just boom, one-stop shop. Follow along with me, build with me. We'll be on stream today for about 40 or 50 minutes, and we'll do that every day this week. And by the time we're done, we'll have a fully functioning, beautiful, animated, SEO ready, code perfect website to publish by hitting one big blue button inside of Framer. It's going to be a really good time. We got Moonmita, Curtis is in the house, Terry, Shawib says, Jesse, let him cook. That's what we're going to try to do this week. Starting with today, where we are going to be just getting the basic setup, getting your mind wrapped around this whole process of building this website. So if you follow that link and you go over to Lemon Squeezy and download the template, again, you're going to get access to the free Figma file, and this is going to be that free Figma file. Okay, we got the cover page here. Jump over to the designs. Look at all this free design work that you're going to get if you want to use it. A nice, beautiful template. We have a bunch of assets on our canvas. We have a home page with all the responsive views, and then we also have the desktop views of a bunch of different pages. Hey, we're going to build all of this week, and you might be going, oh my gosh, that seems like a lot of work. Actually not. So if you are somebody who's always wanted to develop your own websites, but you've just never had the skills, you could, if you show up every day, same bat time, same bat channel, this week with me, you will now have the skills to no longer not be able to create. That's the weirdest way to say that. You'll be able to make websites from here on out, complex websites, responsive websites, beautiful websites, semantically correct websites. Okay, so again, if at any point you have questions, feel free to ask questions. And you know what's another great place to ask questions? Curtis Morrow knows this. You can head over to designchamps.io. You can become a design champ. Design Champs, it's free to join. We also have the Design Champs Plus community. Curtis is part of the Plus community, where you get access to lots more of this type of amazing content, as well as, if you're part of the Plus community, live streams, behind the scenes, awesome video content that nobody else gets. I recently released some really cool interviews on my channel with Dan Mall, with Helen Tran, with MDS. You can get the full interviews over there if you're a Plus member, but you could also just join for free, jump right in. Curtis says, you better ask somebody. All right, I love it. Here we go. So with this being said, what are we trying to accomplish today? We are trying to take this static design, and that's always the problem, right? Is that we're designers, we love doing the design portion, but this is not a website. And I'll say this, even when we present or showcase our designs to our clients, like it's hard for them to understand what this looks like in a Figma file. I know that you understand it because you're a designer, but they don't understand it. So part of the beauty and the benefit of doing stuff inside of Framer is that you can get things into the browser where that design is actually. So we want to design for the medium in which it's going to be digested. So getting it into the browser as quickly as possible, it's going to be a very successful thing, and Framer is going to help us to do that. You can actually, if you want, you could skip all of this and just do all of your design in Framer. That's a separate workflow. We're going to kind of cover the standard workflow of you moving things from your design. You've already done the design, and you want to now get it into Framer. So the first step here that we're going to talk about is really basically building a style guide, getting everything up and running to make the rest of your project really, really smooth. So you probably know about Figma. I probably don't have to do too much of an introduction to Figma. I'm on the new UI 3 inside my browser here. It's super fun. We could preview this design. Everything's great, but again, it's not a website yet. It's not usable. And I'm not even going to take the time, actually. I mean, I've put a little bit of interaction here. I got some sticky interactions going there, but I'm not even going to take the time to really do a lot of the prototyping and interaction here because, you know, Framer actually also serves, especially if I'm building websites, it serves as a prototyping tool. Why do all that work here just to recreate it? I recently at the Figma conference earlier this year, I started to have a lot of conversations with people, which was, hey, why are we drawing pictures of websites versus actually just building the website as designers? And that's really, for me, the question that has has been kind of like asked plenty and been talked about. And for me, Framer starts to be the answer to that question. Yeah, why would I just draw pictures of websites? Hey, this is how it's going to look, versus I've designed it and it's functional at the same time. That's what Framer is going to allow us to do. So again, if you have any questions, feel free. We got some people jumping in the chat right now. We're going to build it using React. No, we're going to be building it using Framer. Framer is my new favorite no-code web design tool that actually allows us to build fully functional websites. Okay, so there's some links down in the description. Again, if you're just joining us, head down into the description as well to grab the link to the free Framer and Figma file, the design and the fully remixed Framer thing. If you're just like, I love this website, I want to publish this website, I want to sell this website to a client, go ahead, let's do it. My hope is that you are just blessed, informed, and encouraged and skilled up by this live stream. So just go grab that for free, okay? Okay, so back to it. How do we start this process? Let's say you're in this position, which most people are, and we have this design. We need to start figuring out how to move this into web development format, okay? The first thing I really like to do is I like to get in here and build a style guide. Side note, we have all these really cool 3D assets. We're also going to be doing some stuff in Spline. If you're not used to Spline, you're going to learn a little bit about this. It's a really cool 3D rendering tool where we can actually build stuff in 3D. So I really want these elements, right, to be in my website. I really want my website to have some cool 3D stuff. That's what all of these are representing. Look, we got people in our file already. Look at you guys jumping in there. I'm so excited. People are downloading the file. They're doing the thing. I'm really, really excited to do this project with you. Now, I love that you're in the file, but I'm going to just really quickly, I'm going to hide. Let's see, I'm going to hide the cursors. Let's see, multiplayer cursors. Boom, we're going to take those off. I love you. I'm happier in the file. I just don't want to be distracted by you because I got some ADD going on. Here we go. So we're going to build out a little bit of a style guide. Now, the style guide is going to help us in a website because it's going to basically declare what are my typography styles, what are my color styles, what are different, maybe even shadow styles or effect styles. I want to declare all of that, and I'm going to actually bring that document over. But before we do that, let's jump right into Framer because, like I said, Framer is super accessible, and you can do this from the get-go. You can jump over to Framer if you have a free account. Got a link down in the description if you want to do that. And we're going to create a new project by hitting that big blue button in the top right corner. This is a blank project. Boom, we have a blank canvas here. You want to know how easy it is to make a website? What if we just took a big piece of text and wrote the old hello world statement here, okay? And I'm going to just really quickly so we can actually see it. What if I just pumped up that text and I put this, I just drag and drop it right in the middle. I can preview it. Look at this, I got a website. I could publish this website right now and I have it in the browser. All done. Let's pack up and go home. I'm just kidding. We're not done. This is good. Okay, so listen, that is actually how simple it is. If you wanted a website as simple as this Hello World website, we got us a website, folks. We published it in seconds, right? Now, obviously, we're going to want to make a website that's a little bit more complex than that. So let's come back to our Framer project. Let's understand Framer just a little bit. Framer is going to feel very, very similar to Figma. You got this infinite canvas. I can zoom in and out. I have artboards. My artboards represent the different breakpoints of my website. So currently I have a breakpoint at 1200. If I want it, and that's my desktop. If I want a tablet or a mobile, I can add new breakpoints here and select which one of those I want. I can even create custom ones. Just like that, okay? So very simple. I'm going to select items. I get this contextual panel on the right-hand side, my property panel, where I can change things like my typography and the color of my text. And all this is sounding really familiar, right? Because it feels like Figma. Now, I'm going to blow your mind. We're going to cover all of these panels, all of this functionality, all of these little intricacies, but let me just blow your mind really quickly. Again, this is the simplest website you can make. We've already published it. We already have it there if that's how we want to go. But what if we want to do something a little bit more interesting? What if I wanted to take, for instance, this whole website here, like my entire website, and I wanted to just open up a plugin inside of Figma. Ooh, I always mix the two up. And I would just put in Framer, and I'm going to get the Figma to HTML with Framer plugin. And that plugin is going to run, and you can see that it's copying lots of layers. The cool thing about this is that Figma does everything on the canvas as JSON and vectors. And so it's able to copy all that math. That math is translated into design, and I'm able to bring that math over here. And now that I've copied it, I'm able to literally just Command or Control V. Well, that's an F right there. Let's Command or Control V and see if I can paste this directly into, or maybe we have to just put paste like that, okay? And I'm using the browser here, which might be a little bit interesting, the way that I copied things. So let's see if this pops in. But theoretically speaking, and this is, I don't usually work in the browser. I usually work with the local versions of these tools. So I usually work with the local version of Figma and the local version of Framer. Let's see if we're having a little bit of a problem here. Let's open up our project in the local version and see if we paste in here if we get any difference. Oh, interesting. Let's open up the local version of Figma, and why don't we do the same thing here? I'm going to just grab this again. I'm going to open up that plugin. We might work here. Boom. I'm going to grab it and do that whole duplication process again. It was supposed to be like way more impressive. It was going to be like, bam, one move, here we go. But it just took a second. Sometimes that's life, right? It's copying all my layers. We're copied. Let's head back to my local version of Framer, paste that in, and let's say that it's broken today. I don't know why it's broken today, but it feels a little bit broken. Oh, never mind. Not broken. It is uploading my Figma images. It's just a very big copy and paste because we're copying and pasting an entire website, y'all. And it didn't do it in our browser for some reason, and that's okay because we're not going to be doing this big copy and paste thing anyways. We're going to be going piece by piece. And what I love about that is I might be having some problems in the browser, but it's cool to know that you can just use the browser. Now my canvas was set at 1200, so we could just spread that out to be 1440, I think is what the website was designed as. And you can see that it's cutting off the bottom of my website. If I wanted to, I could just drag that down, and look at this. Let's just press preview really quickly. We have a website. It's got a couple little issues that it had, and that's okay. We could just turn our headline white really quickly. And if we wanted to, that's it. We could publish this website, and this website is now ready to go. We could preview it, and our website's looking pretty legit. It's looking pretty good. All of our assets are in. That is how simple it could be if you wanted it to. I want it to be better. I want us to learn piece by piece. So I'm just going to undo all of that, head back, and we're going to start from scratch. Okay, now I think we should be able to use the browser versions of all of this moving forward. So let's just refresh everything, reset, and we'll get going here. Okay, just like that. Perfect. Figma link is in the email. Yes, absolutely. You should be able to get that Figma link in the email. I'm just going to go really quickly and just, again, hide multiplayer. I always forget the hotkey command for that. All right, here we go. So now that we've done all of that, maybe it blew your mind. Maybe you're like, yeah, I knew that. That's more of the same. There is the ability to use the plugin to move everything from Figma into Framer and then just be done with it. But that's not you learning the tool. So let's learn the tool. And again, back to it. Our first start is to build a style guide. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come over here. I'm going to move all these assets. We don't quite need them yet. I'm going to draw out a frame. And I'm going to bring this frame right here. I think our background is black. That's fine. I'm just going to grab all of my typography that I seem to be using throughout my page. I'm going to grab that. I'm holding down Shift button text. That was my link text. This is more of like my H2. Let's zoom out. I can't tell. Maybe this is like different, like my little H. Maybe this is an H3. That seems to be the majority of the things we're using, like an H1, 2, and 3. Maybe this is a different style. I'm just grabbing stuff. It seems that I've gotten most things. So let's just grab in my frame, paste those all here. And maybe my paste function is like not working for some reason. It seems to not be working. You know what? We're going to abandon the browser version. We're going to go to the old UI 2 of Figma because for some reason it's just not working. Is it? So let's fix that again. And really quickly, I'm going to close this in the browser, and I might as well just close that in the browser. Great, beautiful. Let's try that again. I should be able to copy and paste. There we go. Okay, so now our copy and paste is working. Something's wrong with my browser today. Little technical difficulties. It wouldn't be a live stream with me if there wasn't some technical difficulties. I've copied the rest of those textiles, and I'm just popping them in, okay? Now, again, doesn't look very impressive, but we have, this is what looks like our H1. This is what looks like our H2. This is what looks like our H3. We got a nice little typographic hierarchy that's going on there. This looks like what? Our button text. It looks like our button text. Get started. Let's grab that button text. I'm back in here. And let's just turn it white so we can see it. Again, we don't care about color right now, but we have our body copy right there. It looks like our button text and our link text, our body copy, and we can get rid of this other one. Let's say those are our styles. Let's just simplify it for like our case here, right? I'm gonna grab those styles and it looks like they're all there. Everything seems to be working fine and really quickly. Let's just multiplayer again. Let's turn that off so I'm not distracted. Now that we have our typography like selected, I'm gonna start grabbing my colors, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw out a little frame down here. And I think we have white for our text, so that's definitely a color. Let's do another one right here. We definitely have black, okay? We definitely have green, and it looks like we have some different shades of green. So why don't we just select this? This is like a radial gradient. I'm gonna copy this and just bring it up into place. And let's start dissecting this a little bit. Inside of my radial green, it looks like this is my actual main green color, this bright, vibrant Nike type of green. And I think my text is using kind of like a deep version of that. So why don't we get rid of this and we can copy that green over and replace it like such. It looks pretty good. And we have a gradient moving from like dark to light. So we could have grabbed that button and just assessed, hey, what was the radial, like the light radial color inside? Looks like it's a C1 color. Let's grab that light color just for funsies. So we have a little bit of a style going on there. We're going to paste that inside. Great. We have our light colors, we have our bright color, we have our dark green, and we have our neutrals, our black and white. Perfect. Let's grab those, just move those up inside. I'm going to shrink them down. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. I'm going to rearrange them. We're just going to bring this big data dump of information over into our project. Okay, so let's just name this style guide. And if you're designing along with me, feel free to name that style guide. And whoop, we've changed pages. I'm going to grab style guide, and this is where I am going to use that plugin. So I look up the Figma to Framer plugin. If you can't find it, head up here to your different like components, plugins, widgets, and I'm just going to type in the word Framer, or you can go into the Figma community. This is the one we're looking for, Figma to HTML with Framer. I'm going to click that. As soon as I click it, whatever frame I had selected, it copies those layers. We are now ready to go, okay? So I'm going to open back up my local version of Framer because for some reason that's working for me today, and the other one is not. I'm going to open up my fresh project, our same Hello World project. Why don't we just name it really quickly? I'm going to call this YouTube, if I could spell today. I'm going to call this YouTube demo so I can always find it. We just named it up there by clicking on the name. You can also place them in different folders and organize all your projects, client work, personal work here in Framer. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press Command V, and it's such a small little thing, it just pops it right in. I'm going to move it off to we've taken the first step. We've brought in all of our elements. And let me just move this to white so we can see everything. Everything feels really nice. I can just stretch out this text. Everything's good. And we have our colors. Fantastic. So we've just created that style guide in Figma. We imported that style guide into Framer, and now we're going to declare all of these styles directly in Framer. So that way we have these variables, we have these classes, not classes, but we have these like local styles, just like we would have over in Figma. We're going to have them in Framer now, and we'll be able to assign everything everywhere. It's going to actually help us to build really, really fast. So how do we do this, right? So we have the 3 pages, or excuse me, the segmented control and the 3 sections in the top left-hand section of Framer. And if I'm going too fast, you let me know. Sometimes I talk too fast. Sometimes I think too fast. Sometimes I walk too fast. Currently, we are on the pages section. We could add a new page, and we have a bunch of options, and we'll talk about those later. Go over to the layers panel. This is very similar to Figma. You can see as I hover and roll over those different areas, it's going to highlight them on my canvas for me. And we also have an assets panel. The assets panel, again, very similar to Figma. We can create new components, we can create new styles, and we can create code elements, right? So we'll get into the code much later, and we'll get into components later. But right now, what we want to do is create some local styles, just like you would in Figma. If you're like, I don't know Figma very well, how would I create a local style? Well, we can go back to Figma really quickly, and I'll show you, right? Right now, we have no local styles. You can see that because there's no local styles put into my project. But if I really liked this color, I could create a local style out of it by opening up those styles and creating one. I can name it green, whatever it is, like that. Boom, now we have a local style. And the thought process here inside of Figma is wherever that local style is used, we don't want to just use the hex code or the value. We want to make sure that we're using the local style. Why? Because if I apply this in a couple of places and later on I decide I don't like that local style, I want to change it to purple, I change it here and it changes everywhere throughout my project. That's the idea of cascading style sheets. That's the idea of local styles. That's why we create them. So that's what we're recreating over here in Framer. It's just those local styles so that those styles can cascade for our entire website. Okay, so let's do that. It's very, very simple. I can just come in here and I can click on the color, and there's a couple of different ways. Like any good design tool, there's multiple ways to do the same thing. I'm going to select my style, and you can see that, or my element down here, it's just a frame basically, or a rectangle with the color white. I can click on that color white and I get my color palette that's kind of come up. Now I can create a new style by pressing here or the plus button. Let's create that new style, and we'll just call it white. Okay, and you'll see here that in Framer we have something really, really interesting. We actually currently we're operating in light mode, but we do have the opportunity to create something in dark mode, and we'll actually see how that comes into play later on. But for now, we could imagine that we want white to be white no matter what. This is more of a semantic, less of a semantic token and more of what you might call a primitive, right? So we don't want this to change. We want to be able to call on white. We want to think, but what if we had it more of like an off-white? You know, we'd want to call that our light color. Maybe we want to do that instead, so we're not declaring it and trying to do semantic stuff inside of it. Cool. We've created our very first style. We can always find that style here, but look at that. We can now find our color style over on the left-hand panel. That's super helpful. We could also click something like, for instance, our black here. We could click the plus instead of going down to where the color is found in this bottom right-hand corner. Come up to the top, click the plus. Do we want to create a text style, a link style? Let's do a color style. Now, we don't actually have to have anything selected, right? We had nothing selected on here. It's going to allow us to do that. All we'd have to do is take our color picker and select, and then we'll name this, for instance, dark. And we don't care about the light or the dark mode there. We selected our dark color. Let's go ahead and create. And now you can see how simple it is to create those styles. So why don't we do this? We'll create another color style right here, use our color picker, and then we'll call this one brand dash dark, something like that, because this is where we're going to start like maybe grouping things together. And if we want to group them, we can put the slash here. We have that created. Beautiful. Okay, we have brand slash dark. Let's create another one. We're going to create another color style, color picker. Boom, we'll hit that one. We'll name this one brand slash default, something like that. Let's make sure that we name that correctly. Like that. Okay, I mean, you can use dashes, you can use slashes, use whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. Let's do one more color style, and we'll clip this one, and we'll call it brand slash light. Okay, so you have all the colors of the brand rainbow here. You could call these number values if you want. If you have a whole color range, for instance, or a color scale, 100 through 900. Feel free to do it like that. However you feel comfortable. It's your project. This is how I'm going to set up my project, okay? And now, just cause I would love to go through and just make sure that I'm using the right color styles on all of these, because I'm actually going to save this style guide somewhere else. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm using the dark one for that. And one thing I really love about Framer in comparison to tools like Figma and other design tools is that when I have the color selector open, I can move it around and I can put it really close to where I'm working. And what I really love is that as I start selecting elements and committing like some sort of selection to it, it doesn't close. I can click right on the next one and just start assigning. So this is like super fast, and it didn't keep closing that menu. You'll notice like if I did that in Figma, it's going to close the menu every single time. I have to reopen it. That's something that Figma should probably implement because it's super smooth. Because in a moment, I just applied all the different, you can see them down here, all those different brand colors and the local styles to each of those little elements, okay? Now, in a very similar way, now we're gonna wanna apply our text styles that we've brought over, right? So we have our text style, this is our H1. We could do this again in a couple of different ways. You can come down here and you can see we have our text section. It's gonna let you select all the different elements, right? What's the contents written there? What's the font? What's the color? What's the spacing? What's the size? All of that. Or we could open up the styles. You can see that we have no styles. So we could create a new style. And because this is a website, because it's not a mobile application or it's not a Figma file, websites have, because this is how it works on the web, pretty strict ways that we deal with typography. It's going to be either a paragraph or it's going to be an H1 through H6. Now you can have multiples of these. That can get a little confusing. And for our project, we're only going to have one line, and not just visually large, but your most prominent, the most important thing. Think of a newspaper from the 50s when it says some sort of giant big, you know, the war has started. That's your big H1. And then maybe you have an H2, a second line of heading. That's the second level of visual importance, but also content importance, and on we would go. This is going to be our H1. So we just want to make sure that we select H1 there, and boom, we have our H1 style. Very easy. Let's do our H2, new style. Let's grab this one, and that's okay if it flipped the color. We're going to go H3, and now I know that we have our body copy right here. So why don't we make a new style there? And we'll create our paragraph style. Now these are link styles. So what we might do is actually, I believe this one was the button style and this one was the link style. I think they're pretty similar actually. If we look at the typography, they're intermedium and this one is interregular. So let's just go back and double check which one was which. We had this style, which was our interregular 16. That is what we would just call our standard link style, okay? So why don't we do that? We're going to create a new style here, and notice that I'm not actually making a text style for this one. I'm going to make a link style for this one. Okay, so we'll hit link style here, and this new link style is all of those selections that we had selected here. Okay, perfect. There's another way you could have done that. We could have come here and we just removed our body style. So let's put that back really quick. Styles and new style. Paragraph. We went a little too far back. Let's just make really quickly, I'm going to fix something, and I'm just going to make this text just kind of collapse and make it a fit text box, not a fixed width text. And we can come up here to link, and that's where you can actually add those links, but we want to add the style. So let's just do that again really quickly. We'll do link style just like that. Now you'll notice that Framer breaks these up. We have text style, we have link styles, we have color styles. It's trying to separate all the different variations of components, or pardon me, of elements and styles in your project. Now, we know this is going to be button text. The button itself is going to be linkable. So let's just do a text style for this one. So we'll come down to text and we'll go to styles. New style for this one, we'll go paragraph here. Notice that it renames it to body 2. We can press edit on that and we can change the name of it or change all the details. But if you want to change the name, you just come up here and right click on it. We want to rename this to button text like that, okay? Just a little bit of a difference between the type size and the line height. So we just want to make sure we declare those, all right? So all of these are looking really, really good. We now have this style guide. We could grab the elements inside it if we want. But I think something that would be really fun right away is notice that all of this typography that we're using in our style guide, it has color that it's using. Which color should we use? Probably the local style colors, right? So why don't we grab all of this typography here? Like these definitely are all going to be like very loud white color, like just crisp white light color. And the color of them, we can actually select down here in the bottom left-hand side. We can just say, make all of those our light color. Again, why did we do that? Because we want to cascade our styles, right? That means if at any point we change light, we can click on our variable, and for some reason we wanted it to be red, it changes it everywhere. Notice the color style representation changed, and our text style representation changed, okay? That's super helpful because now we have this style guide. I could actually just keep this here. I could keep it on the canvas with me. It's gonna work alongside. And if I'm starting to design things in my website and I see some issues there, well then I can change it in one spot. I could change it and start to manipulate it on the style guide and it'll change everywhere. Or I can just start to manipulate the styles themselves. But it gives me as a designer a visual way to see all the styles in my project and see where they start changes and visual edits on the fly. Okay, so Multimedia World says, can we create categories like we do in Figma? No, right now we can't create categories, I don't believe. No, we cannot create categories. But I almost triple guarantee you that that feature is coming soon because that's super duper helpful. So right now you're just going to see them all listed. That's why I like to have some sort of internal system like dashes or slashes or whatever. So I like to keep them kind of linked together with a similar naming convention. So right now, lean on your own naming convention to help you in this process. Okay. Now that we've done this, we actually have, believe it or not, a pretty decent amount of work done in our project. Because for instance, we can take our entire canvas for our desktop here and we can assign it one of our colors. So for instance, the whole website is dark. Let's make it dark just like that. We could, if we wanted to, press T for text and draw out a text area, and we could copy our text here from our website, paste it all in, and you go look at that and you go, that's not how it's supposed to be. Yeah, I know. Well, we could just we could actually just select our element, select our text element here on our page. We can come down and we can select the style that we want. So let's select H1 there. Perfect, beautiful, wonderful. See, notice how it center aligned it and it gave it the right color and styling. And right now you'll notice that everything is absolutely positioned in our project. So this means that I can actually just start dragging and dropping. Now, you can build your website this way if you want. You can totally just have everything absolutely positioned, drag and drop them, but it's not going to be a very seamless experience. So now we're going to set up the rest of the basics of our project, which is going to make sure that our design, our website is going to be responsive from the very outset. We want to understand some of the basics of Framer to make the rest of our process super easy. It's going to flow really, really easy. Now, again, you could do all this like by just copying and pasting and using the plugin. You pull everything over, but we want to build some things from scratch that are going to help us. Okay, so let's move over to the layers panel and see what we have in our desktop version. Now, our desktop version is 1200 and our design was set at 1440. So first off, let's just set the width of our project to be 1440 so everything comes over seamless. Now, if you don't like 1440, it is a little bit wide, I'll be honest. You can set it at 1200, but we could also fix that later by determining the different breakpoints. And if you don't know what that means, stay with me. You're going to know what that means here very, very quickly. We have a fixed width. And when we set this fixed width, we definitely want fixed to be set for our width because that's going to establish our breakpoints, right? And you'll notice if I was to add a new tablet, it's going to create a new tablet breakpoint for me. It's going to say anything underneath the width of, let's say, 1439 by 1439, because our desktop is 1440, it's creating points in which the website will break into the new layout. Okay, that's why we call it a breakpoint. Let's say, for instance, I don't know why, but I want my headline to go vertical. When we hit that, like that size of 1439, you'll see that it's counting me at the top. I'm at 1440 right now. Anything above 1440, that's my desktop layout. As soon as I get close to that 1439, it's going to jump into however I rearrange my tablet layout. We have insane control about how things work in our website, which is really great. Let's get rid of that weird, funky layout for now, and let's address one of the big problems that we actually first dealt with is as we start to add things on our website, you'll notice they start to drip outside of the bounds or the height of our website. We don't want that. So that's why we're going to want to set our width to be height not fixed, but fit content. Now you're going to see like something's going to break really, really crazy, right? Everything's sucking up, it's tucking up, it's all pulling together, and it's just going to fit the content that's there. I would actually love to do the same thing with the content block that I'm working with, right? Currently, like it's set to grow. Why don't we set it, instead of a fixed width, excuse me, it's a fixed size. We could make this auto width just like in Figma, but let's make it auto height. See how all of a sudden immediately it's going to honor the height, the bounding box of our text. That also sucks up. The reason I'm pointing all of this out is so that you know that this panel, this sizing panel, is a place where a lot of the solutions to your problems are actually going to, like, you'll be able to resolve them right here. It's so much of it comes back to just setting the height, the width, the sizing, and the clipping of whatever elements you're putting in your project directly onto your, like, directly right there. You'll be able to solve everything. Now what's great is I have text that is responding to the width of the element, and I have an entire artboard or frame that's responding as well. So as I start to add more, my website will grow. That feels really good to me, right? Because now all of a sudden, everything is growing with the content. Notice that when I did that, I get this special icon. This icon represents a stack. If you are used to working in Figma, we call that an auto layout. Things are going to automatically lay themselves out. In this case, notice the icon from top to bottom. Where do I find all the information to this layout stuff? Well, let's go back over to the right-hand panel. Look at this. Framer's provided us with a nice handy-dandy little element here, or a little section called layout. Just like in Figma, we can see it's moving currently from top to bottom. We could make it move from left to right. That's a really weird website. Why don't we continue our website to stack from top to bottom? And we have all sorts of distribution options and alignment options. Do we want things to wrap? Do we want it to be a grid? We're going to be using a lot of this later, but just know when I set up my websites, I like the actual website itself, the container of the website, to be a stack that stacks everything from top to bottom. And then I like to pour things into it so my website stretches out with the height of it. And then all the elements inside, they can be their own stacks or auto layouts that I can start to manipulate layout. Let's do a little bit more global work here, because right now everything in my website is running up against the edge of the website. That doesn't feel very nice. Why don't I grab the entire actual desktop or like layout, the entire frame. I'm just going to keep calling those frames. Why don't we just add a little bit of padding around it, just like in a design tool? Maybe 60 pixels of padding, top, left, bottom, and right would be helpful. That kind of spaces it out a little bit for me. And why don't we just add a couple more of these so we can see our website stretch out. Look at this. Now we have a nice scrollable website moving from top to bottom. This feels really good. Now, this is definitely not how we want our website to look. We're going to get rid of a lot of this excess content, but we now have building blocks to build any website we want. We have all of our styles, our local styles. We can assign typography and sizes and colors, and we have the container or the frame of our website set up so that it responds well, right? And you'll notice as I start to preview it by hitting that play button at the top or hitting Command or Control P on your keyboard, we actually start to get like some responsive nature. Our text isn't responding, and you might go, gosh, this is so confusing. Where did I go to fix that? Remember, top right is usually going to fix everything. Let's grab all of these elements. Notice the width of my element is set to fixed. That's not responsive. You can't have fixed widths and have things be responsive. But why don't we have it fill the container in which it's sitting? As soon as I press fill, you'll see everything spreads out to the edges. Now when I preview my website, it's going to fill, and everything ebbs and flows a little bit more. We can actually delete all this excess text that we're working with. Now let's address a single piece of text. I actually have a hard line break. That means I've entered like return on my keyboard to get that second line. And we'll probably do that for our headline, but just know if I was to have everything flow and I bring my website back up, look at this, everything's flowing from left to right. We just need to make sure that our website is not set at a fixed height. We want to make sure that everything is fitting correctly. This is a very weird website, I'll say that. So I'm just going to go up to insert here. Actually, I'm going to hit R for, F for frame. We're going to draw a big rectangle. I'm going to drag that in. And just like in Figma, we actually get that little line that tells us that's where we're going to drop it. We're starting to build a little bit of a website. Now when I preview this, right? We see our text flow. But our image, you can imagine this being like an image or maybe like a video or something that we want to play, but it's not ebbing and flowing. How do we fix it? Again, trying to teach you. We go up here and we make it fill. Notice it fills out to the edges there. Now we have this really beautiful and responsive website. Now, the cool thing is, if we look at this and we go, man, 1440 is really, really wide for our website. And maybe we really like that line break in our headline. It's center aligned. These things are starting to crowd each other, but that's fine. Maybe we actually do want this to be more like 1200. We could move it that way. Maybe we could fix the width to 1200 that way. Remember, fixed width is okay for the width of the entire website. That's creating our breakpoints. Now we can create our tablet breakpoint. Look at how seamless that was, because we set everything up appropriately so that it's fitting the content and growing the height, and things are set to a fit width. The content inside is filling and always pushing to the edge. When we pressed a new breakpoint, we didn't have to do a lot of finagling. Things just worked. And now if we want to make certain changes, like for instance, we want to override the color here for our headline, and let's add another breakpoint, our phone breakpoint. Notice how it just stacked everything accordingly, and we want to change the color of that one to maybe like our brand green. Now we have this responsive website that's down at 1200. Everything above it is going to be looking like this. As soon as we hit that 1200 mark, boom, it's going to switch the layout or the color, the override that I assigned. As soon as I get down to mobile, you can see how we are creating these media queries or these breakpoints. We've actually set up the foundation of our website. Now, we've been streaming for about 45 minutes, and this has covered a lot of you just wrapping your mind around Framer. This might be super basic and beneath you. You might go, I already knew all this stuff. But tomorrow we're going to start ramping up and actually building layout. We might build a little bit more before we end today, but I want you to have these foundational principles down before we move forward. Because if you have these down, everything is just going to flow so much more simply, so much more cleaner, okay? Let's answer a couple questions that we have up here in our comments. Jacob Olenek says, man, super helpful. Keep the stash. Looks good. Appreciate that. Let's see. Somebody else, Gabriel says, do you think designing directly in Framer instead of first in Figma might be better for simple websites that don't require many components in terms of time or optimization? Man, designing directly in Framer is a hot topic right now. And it's like anything else, I think. If the tool limits your speed and your ability to actually dictate your solutions, design is all about creating solutions. If the fastest way for you to design a website is to get your thoughts out in wireframe view on pencil and paper, then that's the way you should do it. If working inside of Figma is really, really fast for you and you have no problem doing it, you should probably do it inside of Figma. If you can master the tool of Framer enough that it's not clunky, it doesn't get in your way, and you can design very, very quickly, feel free, design directly in Framer. Framer is very much so a design tool. I could prove it to you. If I was to design a layout like this, and I think, okay, I'm going to have some sort of navigation, and I'm going to have my headline and a button and an image, I could have actually started really, really fresh down here. I could grab this stack or this, actually, we could just draw a new one. I can just start designing and go, all right, my navigation is going to be there. That's a frame. And we're going to probably want some sort of like typography. So why don't I just copy and paste this down here? And I'm dragging and dropping, kind of laying all these things out together. There's going to be some body copy down below. So why don't we switch that to be my body copy? Okay. There's going to be a button. So why don't we just, for now, I'll put placeholder button right here. And I think there was like a big image. So why don't we do like a really big image or a video or something down below? And we can grab all of these things together and hit Command Control Enter and turn them into a stack. I can remove the background of the stack. And look, I have kind of like a layout that I've drawn here. So if you can master the tool and get quick at it, and it's not a cumbrance to you, it's not an inconvenience to you, then absolutely. You could design right in Framer. Because Framer was designed, it's built for designers. And it's built for designers to use like a design tool. It's just really cool that that design ends up being development. That design ends up being code by pressing one big blue publish button in the corner. This is a really ugly website that I just made, but I could definitely deliver it, right? Like this other thing right here is a really ugly website that I just made. But if I want my client to view it in the browser and not have to walk them through a Figma file, I can just send them a URL and say, notice how your website is going to ebb and flow in the browser as the device size changes. I get to show them that natively in the medium in which they're going to actually be using their website, which is really cool. Okay. Moonmita says, I need to learn more about CMS in Framer. Having problems using styles in the CMS canvas. That can be a little tricky, Moonmita. We're going to cover a little bit of that. We'll touch on CMS later on in the series, probably around Wednesday or Thursday. So stay tuned. We will be covering that a little bit more. Let's look at some more of these comments and answer a couple more questions. If anybody has some. Hey, if you got questions, feel free to ask. Again, if you want to ask me questions directly, interact with me for live sessions, mentorship stuff, cohorts, then consider becoming a Design Champ or even a Design Champ Plus member. Design Champ Plus members get access to a bunch of other stuff, and all you got to do is head over to designchamps.io and not log in. You have to sign up first, and you can do that for free. It's going to get you exclusive posts, files, templates, behind the scenes, different streams and stuff like that. If you also want to learn, I saw somebody else in the chat talking about learning UI and UX design. We are on the final week of the summer sale. Summer has ended, but I extended it out by a couple of weeks to get my 30-day UI design program. It is one of the best UI design programs on the market right now. And you can get it right now for half off. Usually it's $7.99, but right now it's on sale for $3.99. That's going to be ending in a couple days. So if you're interested in that, hey, we have set up our project. We have gotten started. You have a free file, free template, free design that you can play with if you like. But I'm going to be right back here tomorrow working on this same project and starting to actually build some layout. And it's going to be a fun time. So stick with me this week. Join me each day. Grab your coffee, and we will be here building out this Framer website. It's going to be a ton of fun. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this very simple introduction and getting started session of our stream week. We will see you same time tomorrow. Take care, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you soon.